Ever feel like life is spiraling? Too many problems, not enough direction? Like you're constantly overwhelmed but don't know where to start fixing it? The truth is, most of your chaos comes from neglected habits, silent choices that slowly drain your strength as a man. But here's the fix: 5 core masculine habits, grounded in Stoic philosophy, proven to rebuild clarity, control, and confidence. In this video, you'll learn 5 habits that solve 99% of your problems. Not hype, real practices that sharpen your mind, build your body, and restore your discipline. If you're tired of feeling weak, broke, scattered, or stuck, this is your reset. So if you're ready to rise above the noise and lead yourself with power, like this video, subscribe, and let's get to it.
Number 1.
Rule your mind. Every external victory begins with an internal one. According to Stoic philosophy, the true battlefield is not out in the world, it's inside your own mind. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet most men today live like mental prisoners. They wake up and immediately drown in distractions. They react instead of reflect. They scroll instead of sit with themselves. Their minds are cluttered, scattered, unfocused. And as a result, their lives follow suit. But the Stoics understood something crucial. Until you command your mind, you cannot command your life. You could be wealthy, admired, even powerful in society. But if your inner world is in chaos, none of it matters. You'll feel lost, anxious, and never satisfied. On the other hand, when you learn to rule your mind, everything changes. Your emotions stop hijacking your decisions. Your fears lose their grip, and you start moving through life with calm authority instead of chaotic reaction. Epictetus, born into slavery, knew this more intimately than most. Though his body was crippled and his freedom denied, his mind remained invincible. He famously said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." And that's not a call to suppress emotion. It's a call to reclaim responsibility, to become the kind of man who doesn't fall apart when insulted, rejected, or overlooked. Why? Because his peace isn't borrowed from the world. It's self-generated. And this isn't just ancient wisdom. Consider Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps. Everything was stripped from him: family, possessions, freedom. But what remained was his ability to choose his mindset. In Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That's Stoicism in real time. That's mental sovereignty under hellish pressure. So how does a modern man start to build that kind of mind? First, practice stillness. Not the commercialized version of mindfulness marketed for Instagram likes, but real, deliberate stillness. Wake up and spend 5 minutes alone. No screen, no stimulus, just silence. Close your eyes. Breathe. Let your thoughts surface. Don't judge. Just observe. You're not trying to control them. You're training yourself not to be controlled by them. This simple act begins to shift your relationship with thought. You start realizing that not every emotion deserves a reaction. Not every story your mind tells is true. With time, this practice builds what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of unshakable inner calm. Next, write. Not for social media, not for ego, but for clarity. Marcus Aurelius didn't intend for meditations to be published. It was his personal journal, a place to wrestle with his thoughts, weaknesses, and intentions. Do the same. Write about what angers you, what distracts you, what you're afraid of. Then question those thoughts. Are they in your control? Are they helping you become stronger or pulling you back into reactivity? This is not emotional dumping. It's surgical introspection. You also need to take inventory of what you consume. Mental garbage is no different than physical junk food. If your diet consists of endless social media, shallow arguments, and outrage-driven news, your mind becomes toxic. Seneca warned of this when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." On your imagination becomes polluted when fed by chaos. Instead, feed your mind like you feed your body, with intention. Read philosophy, study strategy, seek truth, not noise. Another critical piece, emotional mastery, not suppression. Stoicism isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about discipline. A Stoic man feels anger, but he doesn't let it drive him. He feels fear, but he doesn't shrink from it. Think of Cato the Younger, one of the last defenders of the Roman Republic. He was known for his fierce moral integrity and unshakable calm. Even in the face of betrayal and death, he stood firm. Not because he lacked fear, but because he trained his mind to rise above it. And let's bring it into modern leadership. Look at Admiral James Stockdale, an American POW in Vietnam who endured brutal captivity for over 7 years. A devoted student of Epictetus, Stockdale credited Stoic philosophy for his psychological survival. While other prisoners broke down, he remained mentally composed, helping others endure. Why? Because he knew that the real prison is not the cell. It's the mind that gives in to despair. So ask yourself daily, who is ruling your mind right now? Is it your fear, your frustration, your laziness? Or is it you, the calm observer, the disciplined builder, the sovereign man who decides what enters and exits his mental gates? The habit of ruling your mind is not a quick fix. It's a lifelong discipline, but it's the foundation for everything else. You can't build a strong body with a weak mind. You can't grow wealth if you're consumed by anxiety. You can't lead others if you're a slave to your emotions. This is why the Stoics place such high importance on inner mastery. In the end, your mind is either your most powerful ally or your most destructive enemy. Rule it, and nothing can enslave you. Neglect it, and nothing can save you. Begin here. Discipline your thoughts, command your emotions, and watch your life follow suit. Everything else, money, strength, clarity, starts with this.
Number 2.
Make money. The Stoics were not allergic to wealth. In fact, they understood something modern society often forgets. Money, when earned and used wisely, is not a symbol of greed. It's a foundation of freedom. Not the freedom to dominate others, but the freedom to walk away. The freedom to say no. The freedom to live by your values without compromise. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome and a committed Stoic, once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In that line, he separated wealth from slavery and showed us the path to financial virtue. Let's be clear, money itself is not the enemy. Slavery to money is. When your self-worth rises and falls with your bank balance, you're not rich, you're owned. But when your finances support your purpose and protect your principles, wealth becomes armor, a tool, a responsibility, a duty. Modern culture creates a false binary. On one side, soulless capitalism. On the other, broke idealism. But Stoicism offers a third way, a masculine middle path. It says, make money, but don't be made by money. Don't chase it for ego. Build it for sovereignty. Because when you're financially weak, your values are negotiable. When you're strong, they become immovable. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, had access to immense wealth. Yet he lived simply, avoided indulgence, and reminded himself often that all material things are fleeting. In Meditations, he wrote, "Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go." That's the Stoic blueprint. Build it, use it, never cling to it. So how does a Stoic man approach money today? First, with radical responsibility. Epictetus said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." If you see money as evil, you will resist learning how to earn or manage it. If you see it as corrupt, you'll avoid building it with integrity. But if you see money as fuel for your mission, your mindset changes. You stop complaining. You start building. You shift from victim to architect. Next, focus on value, not vanity. Seneca warned, "A great fortune is a great slavery." He wasn't condemning money, but attachment. If your income is tied to status or appearances, you will live in fear. But if it's tied to solving real problems and serving others honestly, then your wealth becomes a reflection of your contribution to the world, not a trap. And let's not glorify struggle. Financial stress isn't noble, it's corrosive. When you're broke, you tolerate what you shouldn't. You stay in places you hate. You compromise. You become quiet when you should speak. That isn't virtue, it's vulnerability. And a Stoic man removes unnecessary vulnerability wherever possible. Take Nelson Mandela. While known for his moral courage, his post-prison strategy was deeply practical. He recognized the economic pillars required to rebuild a nation. He didn't reject money, he aligned it with justice. That's Stoic clarity, purpose without delusion. Now look around you. Most men want freedom but fear discipline. They want wealth but flee discomfort. Yet the Stoic understands wealth is a craft, a training ground, saving, investing, creating value. These aren't distractions from your higher self. They are part of your training. They demand courage, foresight, patience, all Stoic virtues in action. Consider Admiral James Stockdale, POW warrior, philosopher. He endured brutal captivity, anchored by the teachings of Epictetus. And after returning, he didn't retreat into comfort. He taught leadership, discipline, and mental sovereignty. Financial intelligence was part of that message. Not to promote greed, but to build resilience. And what about you? You have tools Marcus and Stockdale never had. Global access to knowledge, skills, clients, and capital. The internet offers you the power to build from zero. But will you scroll or will you study? Will you waste or will you invest? The Stoic man delays gratification. He wakes early. He learns daily. He moves quietly with direction. Every dollar saved, every skill sharpened, every risk calculated makes him less fragile, more adaptable, more free. And understand this, Stoicism isn't anti-rich. It's anti-dependence, anti-delusion, anti-excess. You don't need millions to be powerful. You need just enough to say, I choose. Exawilido, to walk away from manipulation, to fund your future, to secure your peace. So build your skills. Study investing. Master your budget. Will launch your refernon. Launch your offer. Make money not for ego but for freedom. Because when your bank account reflects discipline, you gain leverage. And leverage is power. Quiet, calm, and deeply earned. If you're unsure where to start small. Track your spending. Read one book. Build one skill. Make one better decision today. Progress compounds. Freedom is built in layers. And a Stoic man knows the man who manages his money manages his mind. And here's the final truth. When you no longer fear going broke, you stop clinging. When your future is protected, your heart opens. You speak with courage. You choose with clarity. You love without fear. Because your life is no longer shaped by desperation, it's shaped by design. In the end, make money, not to impress, not to escape, but to create a life anchored in purpose, a life aligned with your values, a life of clarity, direction, and control. Let your wealth be a mirror of your growth, not your greed. That is Stoic wealth. That is masculine power.
Number 3.
Exercise daily. The Stoics believed that mastery of the body was essential to mastery of the mind. Physical discipline wasn't about vanity, it was about virtue. Epictetus, crippled from birth, insisted that the body be trained alongside the soul. Because a weak body invites a weak will, pain, fatigue, and discomfort weren't enemies, they were tools. Opportunities to sharpen resilience. A man who meets physical hardship on purpose becomes a man who doesn't flinch when life tests him for real. But we've lost that. Today we treat exercise like an accessory, a seasonal trend, a punishment for overeating. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the Roman Empire, didn't have to train. He chose to Wrestling, running, cold exposure. He saw his body as a battlefield for self-discipline. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Your breath, that strength is earned daily. You see, your body is the delivery system for your values. If the vessel is unstable, your mission is compromised. A tired, sluggish, aching body leaks into your speech, your presence, your mindset. You may want to lead, create, and love, but if your body is failing, your potential is throttled. The mind may be willing, but the untrained body becomes the bottleneck. And here's the paradox. The very thing most men avoid, exercise, is the exact thing that would give them energy, clarity, and focus. They say they're too tired, too busy, too overwhelmed. But Seneca warned us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And much of that suffering is trapped inside a sedentary frame. Movement isn't extra. It's essential to think clearly, breathe deeply, and withstand the psychological weight of modern life. Consider Theodore Roosevelt. As a child, he was sick, frail, asthmatic. His doctors feared he wouldn't live. But Roosevelt refused that story. He rebuilt himself through sheer will and sweat. Boxing, climbing, riding, lifting, he forged his strength. Later, he said, "Do what you can, with what you have, where you are." All right. He didn't wait for permission. He moved, and that movement rewired his entire destiny. So let's get one thing straight. Exercise is not about aesthetics. It's about assurance. It's about proving to yourself every day that you're not soft, that you can do hard things before the world forces them on you, that you can generate power from within, not just for survival, but for sovereignty. The Stoics trained for war because they knew peace is fragile. And today our war is internal. The enemy is apathy, escapism, emotional weakness. In this war, a strong body is armor, not for show, but for protection. And no, you don't need fancy gear or a personal trainer. You need consistency, simplicity, push-ups, pull-ups, running, stretching, martial arts, daily motion that demands breath and will. It's not about what you do, it's about doing it. Every day, rain or shine. Because your discipline is built in the reps you don't want to do. And on the days when motivation disappears, that's where Stoicism begins. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. And that work is sweat, strain, stillness and effort. You earn your clarity by moving through resistance." Take Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, modern Stoic. He trains at 4:30 a.m. every day, not because it's fun, because it's necessary. He doesn't chase hype. He lives by one law, discipline equals freedom. That's exactly what the Stoics taught. Don't wish for ease. Build strength. Don't wait for life to get easier. Get harder to break, and the effects ripple outward. Exercise transforms your biology, yes, but also your mindset. It boosts mood, clears the fog, improves sleep, digestion, breathing, posture, even creativity. The body and the mind are not separate. When the body is sharp, the mind is calm. When the body is neglected, the mind declines. So ask yourself honestly, if you quit when your muscles burn, how will you handle emotional fire? If you fold under physical strain, how will you carry the weight of grief, betrayal, or loss? The Stoic man doesn't separate his workouts from his philosophy. He knows hardship in the gym trains him for hardship in life. Train not for likes, but for life. Not to impress, but to prepare. Not for the beach, but for the battlefield. Because the world will test you. And how you train today determines how you respond tomorrow. And here's the brutal truth. Neglect makes decay inevitable. But training builds the opposite, durability. A trained body doesn't panic. It adapts. It doesn't crumble. It commends. In the end, exercise isn't optional. It's ritual. It's how you align with nature. It's how you dominate your day before it dominates you. It's how you return to your true form. Not soft, scattered, or waiting, but sharp, focused, ready. That's Stoic strength. That's masculine movement. That's momentum that no one can steal. And let's not overlook the psychological edge it gives you. When you train daily, you begin to trust yourself more. Your word means something. Your intentions harden into action. You become the kind of man who follows through. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. The gym becomes your proving ground. Not to show off, but to remind yourself that discipline is a habit, not a mood.
Number 4.
Natural foods. To the Stoics, discipline didn't stop at the mind or the battlefield. It extended to every decision, especially the one we repeat most often, what we put into our bodies. Food, they believed, was not just a biological necessity, it was a moral and spiritual practice, a test of character. Seneca wrote often about the virtue of simplicity in diet. The body should be treated more rigorously, he insisted, that it may not be disobedient to the mind. This wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. He understood that indulgence, while pleasurable in the moment, makes the soul sluggish and the will soft. Today, food is no longer sacred, it's engineered. It's packaged, marketed, branded, and manipulated. Meals are consumed for entertainment, not nourishment. And we are paying for it, not just in health, but in focus, mood, and energy. The modern diet isn't just fueling the body, it's fogging the mind. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself with one simple question: is this necessary? That question, when pointed at the plate in front of you, becomes a tool of power. It strips away illusions. It forces honesty, because every bite you take tells a story. It speaks to how you see yourself. Are you eating to escape or to equip? Are you choosing presence or pleasure? Every meal is a vote for clarity or chaos. And when you lose that vote enough times, the consequences spill into everything. Your sleep, your confidence, your ability to focus, your ability to stay calm. A body at war with itself cannot serve a mind-seeking peace. That's why the Stoics practiced moderation, not because they hated pleasure, but because they feared slavery to it. Pleasure unexamined becomes dependence, and dependence destroys freedom. Cato the Younger understood this deeply. He rejected luxury and excess, walked barefoot through Rome, and endured hunger, not to suffer, but to remember that his power did not depend on comfort. His simplicity was a statement. His control over food was control over fear. Today, that same philosophy applies in a different battlefield. The modern grocery aisle is filled with processed traps, artificial seductions, and sugar-coated sabotage. To walk past them, not in self-punishment, but in self-respect, is a quiet act of Stoic rebellion. It's a declaration that your will is not for sale. So how do we live that principle? First, through awareness. Read the label. Ask where the food came from. Prepare your own meals, not just for nutrition, but for presence. When you cook, you slow down. You reconnect. You remember that food is a gift, not a drug. And in that slowing, your relationship to your body starts to change. Second, embrace fasting. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort to sharpen their spirit. Seneca fasted regularly, not to appear virtuous, but to face his fears. He said, set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare. In doing so, he proved to himself that survival was simpler than fear made it seem. Modern science now confirms what the Stoics already knew. Fasting resets the body, sharpens the mind, and quiets the compulsive urge to consume. Naval Ravikant, a modern-day Stoic thinker, echoes this idea. He practices fasting not for aesthetics, but for mental clarity. The more I can eliminate, he says, the better I feel. Because when your stomach is not digesting junk, your brain is not digesting chaos, fewer inputs, cleaner thoughts, more power, This doesn't mean perfection. You don't need to live like a monk, but you do need to build a base. The 80-20 rule is your ally. Eat whole, real, natural food 80% of the time. Use the other 20% wisely, not impulsively. Because your discipline isn't measured in what you never do, it's measured in what you consistently choose, even when no one's watching. And understand this, food isn't just about energy, it's about identity. When you clean up your food, you begin to respect yourself more. You start feeling lighter, not just in weight, but in burden. You begin to see clearly because your internal systems are no longer in revolt. And as the fog lifts, your confidence rises. Not because you look different, but because you are different. Remember, the Stoic seeks mastery of self, not indulgence, not escape. And your diet is one of the most powerful and overlooked arenas for that mastery. You eat multiple times a day. That's multiple chances to vote for your future or betray it. Multiple chances to act from discipline or distraction. So before every meal, pause. Ask the Stoic question, is this necessary? Will this fuel my purpose? Will it keep my body sharp and my spirit steady? Or am I choosing weakness in disguise? Because every time you choose nourishment over numbness, intention over impulse, you win a battle. And over time, those wins add up. Not in pounds lost, but in clarity gained. In the end, Stoic eating is not a trend. It's a practice a way of honoring your potential by refusing to poison the vehicle that carries it. You don't need another diet. You need alignment. You don't need to eat clean for a month. You need to live with integrity at the table. That's not restriction. That's real freedom. That is strength through simplicity. That is Stoic nutrition.
Number 5.
One problem at a time. In a world obsessed with multitasking, the Stoics stood firm in their belief. Focus is power. To divide the mind is to weaken the will. Seneca warned, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. And that truth applies today more than ever. Most men are not overwhelmed because their problems are impossible. They're overwhelmed because they try to solve everything at once. They scatter their energy. They jump from crisis to crisis without finishing a single thought. And in doing so, they never gain momentum. The Stoic path is different. It is narrow. It is deliberate. It says, slow down. One problem. One choice. One moment. That is how a man builds inner peace in a world built to distract him. And that's not passivity, it's strategy. Because when you focus all your power on one target, you move it, you solve it, you gain confidence. Then you move to the next chunster. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of wars, political betrayal, and personal grief, didn't try to do everything. He asked himself, what is my duty now? That question became his compass. Not, how do I fix the world? Not, how do I eliminate every source of pain? Just, what must I do next? And in that simplicity, he found strength. You see, most anxiety isn't caused by the problem. It's caused by the pile of problems, the imagined future, the unsorted chaos. And when you write it all down and choose one, something shifts. You stop spinning. You start moving. Because progress, even small, kills panic. The Stoics believe that order begins within, and nothing creates order faster than attention. What you give your focus to becomes manageable. What you ignore becomes monstrous. So when you have 5 problems, pick one.
Break it down.
Take the first step. That is philosophy in action, not theory, but motion. Consider Admiral William McRaven, commander of the U.S. Navy SEALs and author of Make Your Bed. He often reminded young soldiers, make your bed first thing in the morning. Why? Because it's a win. It's order. It's movement. One task completed creates the momentum for the next. That's not just military discipline. It's ancient Stoic wisdom repackaged for modern chaos. Because here's the truth. When you feel behind in life, it's not always because you're lazy. It's because your attention is fractured. You've been conditioned to react to everything. notifications, emails, demands. And so your nervous system is fried. You're in survival mode. The cure isn't to hustle harder, it's to focus deeper. That's why the Stoics taught, control what you can, ignore the rest. Epictetus said, some things are up to us and some things are not. When you ask, what is mine to carry today? You reclaim agency. You shrink the universe down to what is manageable. You give yourself a real shot at progress. Even in ancient warfare, generals didn't win by charging blindly. They divided the battlefield. They focused on one front at a time. And life is no different. You don't fight the whole war today. You win the morning. You conquer your schedule. You clear your space. You face one hard conversation. You take one breath and move forward. Look at Steve Jobs, known for his clarity, not his chaos. He often wore the same outfit daily, not because he lacked taste, but because he refused to waste focus. He simplified decisions so he could magnify effort where it mattered. That's the Stoic way. Strip away the noise. Eliminate what doesn't serve you. Lock in. And this works even in heartbreak, betrayal, grief. You don't heal everything in a week. You take it one emotion, one insight, one action at a time. And if today the only thing you can do is breathe and not break, that counts. That is victory. So how do you apply this? At night, write one problem on a note. Just one. Isiso one. Not 5. Not a to-do list. One challenge you're facing. Write the next step underneath. In the morning, act on it. Don't check your phone. Don't ask for motivation. Just do the one thing. Then move to the next. Day by day. Decision by decision. Like a Stoic general reclaiming a kingdom inch by inch. And if you're still not convinced, consider how the greatest minds in history carved their empires, not by chaos, but by clarity. Leonardo da Vinci, despite his immense creativity, was known for obsessively focusing on one invention, one sketch, one insight at a time. He once wrote, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." That wasn't a design note, it was a life principle. Because when your attention is uncluttered, your genius has room to breathe. The same applies today. Your breakthrough, whether creative or personal, often lives just behind the noise you haven't cleared yet. Because this is what they don't teach you in school. Overwhelm is not the enemy, disorder is. And discipline is how you fight it. Not explosive, theatrical discipline. Quiet, humble, repeatable discipline. One breath, one task, one refusal to be ruled by noise. In the end, you don't need to fix your whole life by Friday. You just need to act on what's in front of you. And trust that if you show up fully and repeatedly, the chaos begins to retreat. That is Stoicism. That is order in motion. One problem, one day, one deliberate man. That's how peace is built. So if you've made it this far, you're not just looking for motivation, you're looking for transformation. And that doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you take these habits, ruling your mind, owning your finances, training your body, respecting your fuel, and facing one battle at a time, and you live them. Not perfectly, not for praise, but relentlessly, quietly, daily. The Stoic path is not a loud one. It won't win you applause on day one, but over time it reshapes everything. Your focus, your strength, your peace. Because real masculinity isn't about domination. It's about direction. It's about taking chaos and carving clarity out of it. It's about standing in the storm and not flinching. So let this be your starting point, not your finish line. Pick one habit, apply it ruthlessly, then another. Then another, and watch what happens. Not just outside of you, but within. If this message resonated with you, if you felt the weight of these words and you're ready to step into a higher version of yourself, subscribe. This channel is for the few who are done pretending and ready to become. The path is narrow, but it's yours to walk, and you don't walk it alone. We walk it together, See you in the next video.